If you've ever stood at a bar in a sailing club in the times when that was allowed and overheard some terrible boat chat and thought, this is the worst boat chat I ever heard, then you're wrong, because this video is going to be the most terrible boat chat you've ever heard. Unless you're locked in a house with nowhere to go for weeks, you probably wouldn't want to spend any time listening to it. But I'm kind of banking on a few people being in that position. So on this video, I've got with me a couple of mates, Rob Gullen, Tom Partington. You might know them from sailing generally, or the RS800 fleet, or down at Hayling Island, whatever. Got those chaps with me for a bit of terrible boat chat. Starting off, just how these guys got into the 800 and why they sail the boat. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. Maybe it'll just be funny to listen. But yeah, either way, here's something that'll occupy your time for 20 minutes or so. Welcome everybody to just a bit of chat with my mates, fellow 800 sailors. Today I've got two, I'm not sure if they're very good friends and average sailors, or average friends and very good sailors. But yeah, I've got two mates with me. First of all, Rob Gullen. Rob, I first met in 200s with the yellowest boat I've ever seen, but had a lot of chat, but actually backed it up with pretty decent results, which isn't something you see very often in sailing. So yeah, Rob, first of all, say hi to everyone.
Hi everyone, how's it going?
And the second person I've got on is Tom Partington. Tom is our reigning RS800 European champion. I really know Tom, actually, probably the first time I spent much time with him was in 800, but he certainly wasn't a European champion then, and that was back in, I think, around 2012. And
I think it was 2012, yeah.
2012, yeah. So
Hayling Nationals.
Hayling RS800 Nationals, and Tom didn't win that event, but you were the first of all the Hayling lads, weren't you? Is that right?
No.
Or was Mark Heather?
I think it was Mark Heather. I think we should have been first because we're the only ones that actually were sailing the boat at the time. But I think we were last.
Cool. So anyone listening who's familiar with the RS800 fleet will probably know Tom and Rob and myself pretty well from the circuit. I just wanted to start off by asking these guys just a couple of questions about, you know, how they got into the class and what they enjoy about sailing the 800. Yeah, basically how they found themselves in this boat. So can we start with you, Rob? Give us, you know, how did you end up here? And by here, I don't mean locked in your house. I mean
in a webinar with you.
In a webinar with me.
Well, I've been working towards this for a very long time, so. Well, why did I get into the 8? I guess I got into the 8 because I went and did a bit of 200 racing in a winter, maybe 2 years ago, and had quite a bad day on the water and came in, hadn't enjoyed it at all, and thought to myself, why haven't I really enjoyed that? And the reasons were largely that I was sick of hiking, and also because a boat like a 200 is all about fighting for a foot here and there, it's quite combative sailing. And I just got to a point with my sailing where I couldn't really be bothered with that. I wanted more of a time trial around a course, that just wasn't what I enjoyed. I enjoy making a boat go fast, more trying to sail the elements and sail your competition. And the 8 just seemed like it seemed like the only boat really out there that worked on a price front and an excitement front and a kind of crew availability front. So I sold a 200 the next day, and within a week had an 800. So that's how, really.
There's certainly a definite degree to that. The 800, the racing isn't, like the 200s where you are, as you said, scrapping for inches.
It was really interesting, actually, and it's something I thought about quite a lot. And I started my kind of better part of my sailing career, if you can call it that, through like university team racing, which is obviously the most combative element of the sport you can possibly have. Did a bit of a stint in 470s where you get shouted at every mark by 17-year-old superstars who are much better than you. And once I stopped that and was doing a proper job, I just decided I can't really be bothered with this on the weekend. I want my sailing to be fun and lower stress. And the 800 is just perfect for that.
And then Tom, you've actually come into the 800s twice. So yeah, talk us through.
So I started sailing pretty late on. So I was about 16 when I first started sailing, and I've always sailed trapeze boats, mainly as a crew. I first decided to get an 800, I think it was in 2011, wanting to do some helming. And having always sailed trapeze boats, I prefer fast boat sailing, and probably didn't think I was good enough to actually be good in a 200. So I thought I'd use my strengths of being able to know how to sail skiffs and trapeze boats and learn to sail or learn to helm doing that. I mean, I wouldn't say it was massively successful because I haven't really helmed since. But what brought me to the 8 is that actually you can sail with lots of different people, and the boat's forgiving enough that you can do sailing with other people. But actually, it still rewards being good and putting the time in and getting that extra little bit out of it.
Yeah, I certainly think, like, from my personal perspective, I think the 800 is right on that limit of a boat, which is you can just grab your mate who's not got much trapezing experience and stick him in the front of the boat, go out, get around, have a blast, go really fast,
and
get spray in your face, and it's great. But then at the other end of it, if you want to get to the top of the fleet, it is still kind of like, it's still really...
There's a lot to it.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and to coordinate the boat handling at that top level and really make the gains and keep it neat around the course, you do have to be a very good boat handler, probably better than most average, dinghies in the UK, with a few notable exceptions.
I think the element of skill in boat handling, an 8, say, compared to a 2, it's in a different level of complication. Just because you've got much more distance to cover, you've got 2 people standing up, you've got trapezes, you've got.
I guess there's the difficulty in just the mechanics of doing it, but then once you get into the racing scenario as well, because the boat is faster, your loss during a manoeuvre is greater, so therefore it rewards manoeuvres more than a slower boat where they make up less of a time in the race.
So then my renaissance, you could say, with the 800 has come about in the last few years with my wife. Some of you may know as Frances Peters, now Frances Partington. And that's really where we started putting a bit of time in and trying to get good, and we've absolutely loved it.
We should probably get Frances on, really, because she's probably a better sailor than any of us, and
probably that is the problem here.
Better qualified to talk about any of this. And we're just actually watching Frances and Tom sailing on screen now. It's kind of interesting. Frances done a bit of campaigning in 800 before the FX was announced, hadn't she? So
yes, she did.
So that was when you first went into the boat as a helm, wasn't it? So you were kind of tagging along.
Called tagging along.
I assume she beat you by miles in those early days, Tom. Were you sailing against each other then?
Yes. I mean, there was one occasion, and I will never live this. There was a pursuit race at Hayling, and we were actually beating her and Nicola. We were first and second, and then I think I dropped the main sheet and we capsized and they beat us. And that was my only opportunity I've really had to beat Francis. And I choked.
And it was so unimportant that you remember it to this day.
Yeah.
It's worth pointing out as well, they were very small for the boat, weren't they? They were well off. They were well off, like 115 kilos, something like that.
Yeah.
120
Yeah,
kilos.
they were.
So, and that's getting to the point, you know, weight-wise, where you're struggling to really get the boat on the plane upwind. So to even scrape any results when you're that light is pretty impressive. Obviously, a good indication of impressive sailor. Then it's obviously, once she's got you as the lever fully installed at the front of the boat, Tom, it's been no looking back. So how's it been? I mean, obviously a big feature of the class is there are quite a lot of male and female partnerships. What's it been like going into a boat, sailing with your wife, and at a reasonably competitive level?
Well, I know who the boss is, really. He. I am the minion. We've always wanted to try and sail together, and we tried sailing 200s a few times, and again, neither of those it didn't really suit either of our skill sets. Frances is definitely much more of a trapeze sailor than she is a slow boat sailor.
I mean, you say that, but Frances did come, I think, 4th at the 200 Nationals. So she's not that bad.
Just shows how good Hendo is.
Just shows how good Rob Anderson is.
Yeah, he's pretty consistent cruiser. I think the other thing with the 2 is, and the 2 is really a 2-man laser upwind, isn't it? It just rewards hard hiking. And actually, when you look at the crew weight range of people winning the 2s, it's pretty narrow. Yeah. Like a heavy crew in a 200's 140 kilos, and a light crew it's 130 kilos, 125 kilos. Like, you've basically got a 15 kilo range maximum where you're competitive. Whereas the 8 with crew weight equalising, and I sailed with Callum last year at, say, 140 kilos, and we were pretty much smack bang in the middle of the range. I guess you're about 140, are you, Tom?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then this year I'm sailing with Mari, and we're actually, we're off scale light just, and it doesn't really matter. It's just makes the boat a little different. But you're competitive with people who are like 40 kilos heavier than you, and equally they're competitive with you in most of the wind range. And I think if you looked at the nationals results, it's a pretty big spread of rack widths and weights, and mixed teams and boys. Callum and I were 3rd, and he was actually the first boy crew at the nationals last year. So a bit sexist, we didn't get a prize, I'd say.
Well, I think going back to sailing with your wife or partner, you just can't get another boat where you get the performance level and the ability to do that. As Rob says, that the 2 boats in front of him obviously had female crews, and to be able to sail what is a high performance boat at that lower crew weight to accommodate mixed crews just is so good.
Yeah, I think it's definitely does carry the class through. Like what the 800 has managed to do is kind of widen out that niche with the weight equalisation. Obviously, that encourages more people to get in, and the way the boat can be sailed in different configurations. You can split the loads between the crew members depending on who's stronger, taller, bigger, whatever.
Yeah,
and that does open it up to a big variety of people, and that is what's kept the numbers in the class, in my personal opinion, because you've got a much bigger pool.
I think for Francis and I, there's no way that we would be in the class now if it wasn't for crew sheeting, because it allows us to both do the jobs that we enjoy doing in a boat.
So Rob, have you sailed the boat much in the centre main configuration? Have you switched into?
I sailed it quite a bit when I first got it like that, and actually I was out with Chris Firebush on the weekend in his boat before we had our enforced isolation, where and he's always sailed it that way. So, and I haven't done it for quite a while, but actually it's fine.
Yeah.
and you use the cleat.
Yeah.
The main sheet loads are on the verging on being a bit heavy for my liking, but I think it gets difficult when it gets really windy and you get to the point of needing to ease vang. Then the sheet loads obviously go up a lot.
Yeah.
But if you set up well, you don't really have to play very much sheet. We've always said this when we're down at the club talking rubbish about sailing, but if you're set up well, you're not really moving that much sheet, so you can do that with the helm doing the sheet. If you set up badly, then it's the whole world of pain.
Yeah, I did. So Tom was talking through the first 800 experiences back in 2011 or 2012, and I did that nationals at Hailing myself, and I was used to sailing 29ers and 49ers coming in, and I just totally wasn't prepared for the way you would sail the boat with the centre main, on the deck. And I think it is a technique difference between the two, rather than really a speed difference. But I certainly, felt, and I'm maybe a bit of a weakling, but I felt it was quite a high load on the main. But then I was using the wrong technique. I was trying to play the main lots, and that's certainly not the way to do it or doesn't seem to be the way to do it when you're deck sheeting. It'd be good to get an expert deck sheeter in to comment on that. Maybe get Luke in the future, tell us how it's done.
Luke obviously wins a lot of stuff, and he's always done deck sheeting. He's very good doing it. I think to some extent, I think the way the boom bends is different with centre main to the cruise sheeting main, where you got all the purchase at the back. And I think because the boom is so bendy, it gives you like a little bit of spring in the system that you maybe don't get once you go to the cruise sheeting.
Yeah.
That's why the crew needs to move a bit more sheet than potentially if the helm's doing it. It was noticeable sailing on the weekend, and it's something that, if you read like the old books, the kind of when rigs were a lot less adjustable, people talk about bendy or stiff booms depending on whether overpowered, underpowered, etc. I think it's one of those things that has just kind of gone out of the knowledge of sailing. I don't know if there's much in it, but it'd be something to think about.
Yeah, certainly when I think the first open I went to in the 800, and we were behind Emma and Luke for the whole of the open, so we got a good sight of their leach profile. But one thing you could see was the amount of bend on the boom, and that's obviously a lot of kicker, but it's obviously a lot of main sheet in the middle of the boom. So you've got probably 1.5 meters of boom behind it, which isn't directly kind of supported by any lines. And there must be probably a centimetre or two of kind of giving it. Whether that's the difference or not, I don't know, but it's a difference for sure.
Yeah, the first time I really thought about this was when the solo nationals were at Hailing a couple of years ago, and I broke my boom on maybe the second last day and had to borrow a different section boom on the last day, and it made the boat feel completely different. It was a massive change, and it kind of just got me thinking about it. It's a variable. Solo's just like an 800.
So with Rob starting to chat about solo booms, I think that's a good point to call it a day. We've got a few other episodes in mind, different topics, but if there's anything you'd like to hear about, then really just let us know and we'll try and cover it. We'll also try and get on a few different guests, a few different opinions, perspectives, and let me know if you've enjoyed this, if you think it's entertaining, or maybe if it's just helped you get to sleep, if it's that boring. So join us again for another dose of rubbish, terrible sailing chat, and stay safe out there.